Welcome to another edition of Access America. I'm Terry Cady with Disability Network, and on Access America we highlight topics of importance to people with disabilities. Today, we're going to talk about home modifications. There are a lot of reasons that someone might want to make modifications to their home, whether they're having a change in their physical abilities, looking forward to guests and wanting to create greater access in their home, or just planning for potential future needs. So today we've brought a local expert to be a guest on our show to talk about home modifications. We'll address some common areas that people think of naturally and maybe ask some questions about things that you wouldn't normally think of when trying to enhance accessibility to your home. So I'd like you to welcome Dave Ponte to the show. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dave is with Access Construction. And, of course, we know that you focus a lot on accessibility and enhancing features around the home. So, in a nutshell, real quick, before I get into too many detailed questions, what can you tell us about what you do and why you love it?
Well, I've personally have been a remodeler for close to 30 years. And prior to getting into this particular market, I always enjoyed a project well done. Mm-hmm. But now we go into a person's home and we make it more accessible. So we make their life better. We make their life easier. It's not just nicer cabinets or countertops, but now in some cases, we've given them their home back. Mm-hmm. So it's a great market to be in, and it's exciting to see what you can do to help people out.
Mm-hmm. And we agree. Part of what we do is encourage individuals to stay as independent as they can, as long as they would like. And we hear that many people would prefer to stay at home if they had an environment that met their needs. So accessibility is an important feature for a lot of folks. At our office, we tend to get a lot of calls about modifications to doorways, bathrooms, or putting ramps on homes. Are those requests that you get frequently? Or maybe I should ask, what are your most frequent requests?
Well, actually, those are probably the most frequently asked situations. And we do a lot of ramps. We do widen a lot of doors for people. Once you find yourself in a wheelchair or using a walker, a standard bathroom door is rarely wide enough to comfortably accommodate you.
Very true.
Bathroom safety, a lot of grab bars, higher stools, the whole gambit. And a growing market that we see is lifts. Very often you have a mom and dad who have taken care of a child with a severe handicap through their entire life, and as they become an adolescent or an adult, mom and dad are a lot older and a lot more frail. Mm-hmm. And through the years of manipulating and caring for this child, it's not uncommon to have senior parents with major back issues. So we do a lot of ceiling lifts. We do vertical platform lifts to help people in and out of houses in a wheelchair. And I see that as a growing market, and I see people becoming more and more aware of the need of that. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, those are all pretty costly items, and that does create some other problems.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an opportunity? I know in many homes in our community are bi-levels, so it's not like just a one floor. It's like all these little multiple half floors. Mm-hmm. Do you work with lifts in an environment like that as well that don't go a whole story? Or
well, certainly we can do the easiest, most cost-effective thing to do in a home is a stair lift, and for a reasonable amount of money, we can put a stair lift in that'll accommodate your first floor to second story or to the basement. Mm-hmm. If you have a split level where you have two shorter set of stairs, then you either need two stair lifts or a much more complicated system that costs exponentially more. Mm-hmm.
I imagine.
The alternative to that is something like a vertical platform lift, which could be installed like an elevator to get you from one floor to the other.
Not fully enclosed, obviously, right?
Right. Well, in an interior of a home, we would typically have to create a shaft for that, like an elevator. Mm-hmm. But if you jump up into a conventional elevator, the cost is prohibitive.
Okay. Let's back up just a little bit. We're talking about a lot of maybes, and if somebody's needs particularly their physical mobility changes, that they might want to enhance some accessibility in their home. But, I mean, many people can recognize, okay, I might need to enhance something. I might need to make a modification, but really don't know exactly what might serve me best. Is there an assessment process that you go through? Is an occupational therapist need to get involved? Are there checklists online that people can get started?
Well, I know there's a lot of resources online. There's always a wealth there. You just have to have the time to muddle through it. The problem is a lot of seniors aren't computer savvy. I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a segment of the population that is not computer savvy and maybe even intimidated by the computer or the internet. When possible, if we can work with an occupational therapist, I think that's the best approach, because they understand the physical semantics of manipulating a client, what it takes to get them in and out of the bathroom and all that sort of thing.
And use of space, right?
Yeah, and use of space, exactly. So their recommendations help us a lot. I can go in and make recommendations and submit that to the client or to an insurance company, but that could appear as though I'm just trying to sell my services.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And
gives it some credibility.
Even though that's not my heart, and that's not our philosophy, if we work with an occupational therapist, that just gives us credibility.
Okay. So we mentioned earlier, about bathrooms and kitchens and some other common areas that there's generally a lot of traffic in. Are those areas in a home that you modify most frequently, or are there other areas?
The bathroom is the single most modified area. Again, going back to old-style construction, it was pretty common that they were 2'4". I've been in a lot of homes where they're only 2 foot. And if you're using a walker, the only way you're going to get through those is to go sidestep. And for some people, that's physically not possible. If you're in a wheelchair, forget it. So we try to accommodate, get the largest opening into that bathroom as possible. Now, your constraints are the physical property, where you can manipulate the wall and the size, maximum allowable size to put a door in. So we try to do that. We also try to swing the doors out whenever possible. So if a client were to collapse on the inside of the bathroom, if they fall against the door, then they've blocked access from somebody trying to get to them. So an outswing door is a good safety feature, and that's recommended by a lot of occupational therapists as well.
And they offer some more maneuvering space in the bathroom
exactly.
as well. So, yeah, good idea. Okay. One of the things that we wanted to highlight are I know that you brought some photos with you about a few projects that you've already completed. So I want to begin just taking a look at some of those, and we'll get through a couple, probably take a break, and then look at some more. So if we have an opportunity to pull up one of the photos real quick, I think the first one that you've brought to us is a ramp.
Yeah.
And so lots of times when folks begin using a piece of mobility equipment, ramps are the first thing that come to mind. I just need to get in and out of my home, let alone getting around my home.
Right.
So what are some of the first things you consider when a ramp is requested?
Well, the code for a ramp is for every inch of rise, there has to be a foot of ramp. So it's a 1:12 ratio. I think that's an 8-degree slope. The minimum width is 36 inches, and they have to have bilateral grab rails.
Both sides.
On both sides. I see a lot of ramps built that are contrary to that, but if they work for the client, then that's what's important. But so the challenge, however, with a ramp is the higher the house, or the higher that front door or back door, whatever you're coming in and out of, the longer the ramp is going to be. And in a postage stamp size front yard or backyard, you're really limited to what you can do. In older homes, like around Saginaw and Bay City, it's not uncommon for that front door to be 45 inches, 36 to 45 inches high. That's 36 to 45 feet of ramp that's required.
Which is a lot.
A lot, and depending on codes and setbacks, becomes a real challenge to plan something out that's going to work in that property.
In an example like that, would it be sometimes even more appropriate to have one of those lifts in a covered
Absolutely. But again, now we're dealing with a cost issue.
And maintenance, if it's going to be in the weather.
Certainly. And the lifts that we use are rated for exterior application, but Michigan is not a good place to leave anything out. So if we can build a roof over the structure, or some of the lifts have a canopy available, it's better if you can actually house it to keep the snow and wind and ice off of the moving parts.
You mentioned the slope of a ramp, and many of the design features that are involved when people are adding accessible features that come from the Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility guidelines. And it's important to note, I think, that the ADA doesn't necessarily apply to residential settings, but every time there's a standard or a measurement that's referenced, whether it's under the Fair Housing Act or what have you, folks tend to reference back to those accessibility guidelines kind of as the standard. And so even in the Architectural Barriers Act and the accessibility guidelines were merged a few years back so that builders and contractors really had some consistent measurements to work with when they were designing things. Have those kind of standards, do you use them often? Are they helpful?
They are helpful, and again, they're not applicable or they're not a requirement in a residential scenario, but whenever we can, we try to use those standards. For example, the 5-foot turning radius that they want to have for wheelchair. In most residential bathrooms, you're just not going to get it. If we're in a scenario where finances and the existing structure will allow, we can expand that footprint to accommodate a 5-foot radius. But in a standard 5x8 bathroom, it's just not going to happen. So we do look at that, and that's what we want to achieve. But whatever the confines of that particular project are, we get as close to it as possible.
I like that you said you were able to customize it to whatever the individual needed. But if it does meet those standards, then there's a higher likelihood that that home is going to be usable by more people as well.
Certainly.
Okay, very good. We're back to the bathrooms already. I think we're going to take just a quick break because I think we have a couple of different bathroom shots here.
Okay.
And a lot of things that we want to highlight as we look through some of these photos. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dig into some of those details. Stay tuned.
Disability Network will help you find the resources that fit your life.
I am now out of the nursing home and I have my own home to live in.
Now I can spend the afternoons with my grandchildren.
I'm so glad Cheryl gets to do what she wants when she wants.
Independent living doesn't mean you have to do it all on your own.
People used to think they didn't have a choice, but they really do.
If you're ready to move out of a nursing home, we can help. At Disability Network, our goal is to help people see their dreams come true.
Welcome back. Today we are talking about home modifications, and Dave Ponte with Access Construction is with us. We're about to highlight some modifications that have been done to bathrooms and have a little bit of conversation about some features that might enhance accessibility at your home. So we'll go ahead and pull up a photo. We're looking at one modification here, and the first thing that I noticed, Dave, is the doorway. Can we talk a little bit about what's important about that?
Well, of course, the size is very critical. In this particular situation, the client preferred not to have the door swing out, but we were able to put what's called a swing-away hinge on the door, and that helps get the door slab right out of the opening to actually increase your usable space in the opening by the thickness of the door.
Much cheaper than building a whole new door jamb.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this particular project is, as you can see, it's a roll-in shower, and in a scenario like that, we have to modify the framing to create fall to the drain, and this was a great project. It came out very nice. It's a very attractive bathroom, and it's very functional.
I happened to notice the drain there, and for a lot of individuals, they're worried that keeping the water out of the rest of the bathroom is the biggest, fear of why they wouldn't put one in. Can you talk a little bit about, just real quickly, about how that drain system works?
Well, that's a linear drain, and the advantage to that is the floor slopes from both sides, and this one we've got set up near the center of the room, so the idea is to pull the water. And so if you do have water getting by the door or past the door, it should fall back. Now, if you're using a wheeled shower chair, no matter what you do, you're going to have a certain amount of water come out. In another project, you'll see there's a rubber water stopper that can be applied to the threshold of a shower, and that helps keep a shower curtain in, and it collapses and bounces back with the use of a shower chair. And those are helpful in keeping the water on the
just enough.
on the wet side.
Yep, just enough. Okay. Anything else about this one, or can we go to the next one?
Yeah, we can go to the next one.
All right, next one.
Now, this particular unit is a gel coat fiberglass shower unit. We install a lot of products from a company called Best Bath out of Boise, Idaho. All the components are American made. These units have plywood backing and a solid foam core under the base. So they're designed for this market. They can handle the weight of a shower chair, the pressure. They can handle a walker. The shower chairs that we put in those, the fold-down shower bench, is actually tested at 900 pounds. We always include grab bars and a weighted shower curtain. And again, that's got the water stopper on the bottom to help keep that water on the wet side.
Yeah, I noticed in this picture there are several grab bars, and really installing a grab bar where the individual needs it most is really important. I know in some homes, individuals install their own grab bars and they haven't put that support in the wall behind it. Is that difficult to do once a home's already built?
Well, for a grab bar to be functional under the weight of a person, it really has to be mounted to framing. So the challenge that we encounter on a very regular basis is a standard fiberglass tub. The wall is only about 1/4 of an inch or less. So we have to go through that and attach it to the stud. So we've got to find the stud, and then we've got to fill the gap between the wall of that shower and the stud so it doesn't pull it in.
Yep.
So that is a challenge, and it's if somebody tries doing it themselves, they run a risk of not putting in a safe installation.
Yep. Really important that it's a safe mount. So
in ceramic tile, it's not as bad because you can use hollow anchors that are designed for that, and they'll hold the recommended weight. But it's always best if we can hit framing.
good. Lots of other features. You mentioned the shower bench that's in here, the arm supports that are on the side of the stool as well. Again, just making sure that folks have support that they need. Okay, and the next one. Oh, these are popular.
Yeah, this is a walk-in tub, again by the same company, Best Bath. They're a hot item right now. You see them advertised quite a lot. They're really heavily marketed in senior publications. They run a pretty wide gambit in cost. They're not for everybody, but for somebody who enjoys a bath, who might not be a shower person, it's a great alternative. It's a great way to give them a safe way to bathe. They just have to remember when they're considering a purchase of this type of tub, you get in it before it fills.
Yeah.
So it's important that you have good water supply, and then you're in it while it drains as well. So they require a 2-inch drain, and we try to use 3/4-inch supply lines.
No, that would be a bummer to open the door before.
Yeah, you'd be mopping for a while.
It is when you talk about the ease of getting in and out. However, particularly when we talk about how many individuals fall in the bathroom trying to get up and over the side of that tub or sitting on it and trying to swing their legs over. So this really is a safety feature that I imagine a number of people would take advantage of.
Absolutely.
So ballpark cost on, I know they run the gamut, but is there a mid-range?
Well, I typically tell people we could put this particular tub in a range from $8,500 to $13,000.
So some of it depends on what you've got to start with.
The bells and whistles, what we have to start with, what kind of finish we're going to do on the walls, what their existing plumbing is like.
Great. Okay, what else have we got?
This is stair lift. We do of all the lifts we install, we do stair lifts probably 10 to 1 to any other lift. They're the most cost effective, and for a very reasonable investment, people get a part of their home back. And they're great, and typically it takes only a half day to install a standard lift, so we're not tearing up somebody's house.
For a week,
it's
right.
non-invasive. And they run on batteries. So if you have a power outage, then you're not stranded.
And you can still get to your tornado shelter. Or
Absolutely.
What have you. What's the weight limit for a common seat like that?
Typically, it's about 350 pounds.
Okay.
And this particular one is designed, you can see the dual tracks and it curves. That's a much more expensive product, but that will accommodate any stair configuration. We put one here in Midland that went up from the basement all the way to the second floor, and each set of each flight between floors were 2 flights of stairs. So it did kind of a 360 all the way up.
Whee! Okay. And there's a hand control right on that armrest, or is there a remote that goes with it?
Well, there's actually both. The client riding it would operate it with a toggle switch on the lift. But if you have 2 users in the family, when mom takes it down, dad can call it back up so he can ride it.
Nice.
Or if you want to load your laundry on it or your Christmas decorations, you can send them up with a remote.
That's a really good point. Yeah,
Absolutely.
multi-purpose. Absolutely. Okay, next one, please.
Now, this is another ramp. This is a typical pressure-treated ramp system. Again, it has the bilateral graspable rails, and we put a non-slip runner on it. And then if it lands on cement, we would typically include a metal plate that has a grid on it to make that transition.
Serve as a nice threshold.
Right, because wheelchairs typically have small front wheels, and even a small bump can be a challenge.
Yep, yeah, it can tip you right over. So a lot of times when ramps are being installed now, I think folks are thinking about, how can we make it a natural part of the landscape as opposed to this, large addition on the front or the side, or not having to go through the backyard as well. And so I think folks have gotten really creative about how to incorporate that into the design. So I know that there are a number of construction companies out there, lots of builders, and some of them indicate that they do accessibility features or are ADA compliant, and I know that there really is no rubber stamp under the ADA. So if I was looking for a builder and one who was really knowledgeable in accessibility features, what kinds of things would I want to look for? Are there certifications that are out there?
Well, certainly the CAP certification, Certified Age in Place.
It's an aging in place specialist, right?
Yes, that's always a good indicator. It's important, and you're right. There are a lot of really good builders, and there's a lot of good builders that start out doing a project with great intentions, but because of the lack of experience, they don't always come out the way they should. And we've come behind a number of projects where we've made corrections, but and I think the important thing is to interview your builder to make sure they're comfortable with that market, that they have experience in that market, and they understand the needs. We have the advantage in that we've been doing it for a long time. There's a lot of companies now that are just getting in the bandwagon. It's a great market. It's a growing market. The senior population will be the largest segment of the United States population here in another decade. And with 1 in 3 seniors falling, there's a lot of work to be done. So I see more and more people getting involved in this market, and it's great. They should. But it's also important that they understand all the requirements.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And from an access perspective, I mean, disability impacts so many families, and you don't always know. We can plan to age, but we don't always plan on disability. So the greater access we have really helps everybody stay engaged. So both from a residential setting and a community setting, I know that you have some opportunities to enhance access. And I think our last picture is actually at a community setting. And if we can flip to that, I'll have you talk about that just a little bit too.
Well, this is a pool lift, also made by an American company. The ADA recently changed their pool access requirements. And so pretty much any public facility with a pool has to provide access to people with disabilities. The easiest way to accommodate it without getting into major construction is a lift. This particular one was put in at Delta College, and we put two 2 mounting locations in the pool area for them, so they could use it for access to the shallow part of the pool and the hot tub. But in the deep end, where it's shown here, we put that pivot there so they could use it for Red Cross training.
Nice.
So it's a battery-powered device. They're safe. They're operated by the user, and they offer people access who otherwise wouldn't. There are adaptations that are available for those, for if somebody is stuck, can't transfer out of a chair, that an aquatic chair can actually go in there. They use like a platform. They also have gurneys available. So it's a pretty has a pretty broad application.
Good. I'm really glad you brought this picture, because I think, having our viewers recognize that not only can you help enhance access in a residential setting, but at a business or in a store or in some other community place. If construction's needed, then that's an opportunity that's available for folks. So if I am looking, again, residentially, do you all bill insurance? Does insurance typically cover a home mod? What are the biggest barriers that you see there?
Well, health insurance doesn't pay for home modifications. The only insurance that I've seen that will actually pay for home modifications is no-fault auto. There was an exception. I think there was one insurance carrier that includes certain modifications as part of their coverage. Other than that, we use we do projects. The VA is heavily involved in home modifications for our veterans. The community mental health organizations, Disability Network. There are Medicaid waiver organizations that pay for ramps and door openings and that sort of thing. So and there are other smaller groups like I think Parkinson's group and
some of the foundations,
some of the other foundations, some of the area foundations around town will help. Sometimes churches have benevolence funds that help participate in that. So there are organizations that are willing to help. The trick is getting connected.
Yep. All right. Well, Dave, I'm glad that you had an opportunity to share with us, particularly the photos that you brought, but also your expertise in this area. So I appreciate you joining us.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I hope that you all had a few questions answered today. And if you have any more, or if you have a need for enhancing accessibility or trying to figure out how to pay for that, give us a call. We're happy to help.